Welcome to Dr. O's Modified Medicine Show. Just like the daily social distancing show, mine will be very short, moth medicine style, 7 minutes or less. If any birds come to help us out with this, that'll be great, and I'll move the camera. Once upon a time, 15 years ago, as of March 25th, which may actually be tomorrow, a doctor, myself, overworked, very much a prescient, feeling way too much empath, put myself in a hotel room to get out of this world and my obligations here. I made a suicide attempt that has often been described as a spiritual emergency, but I want you to really understand how much of a spiritual emergency it was. Back then, 15 years ago, I saw things that I did not want to see happening in the world. They created a lot of anxiety in me. Those things that I saw were planted in me, those anxieties, by a psychic rape of sorts, and I'm going to name the perpetrator, Dr. Richard Martin. I'm going to say that again, Dr. Richard Martin, a Episcopalian minister turned after 20 years to a psychotherapist who, sadly, with his Christian limited upbringing, did not believe that men could access the divine the way that women could. So his decision was to psychically rape women serially, yes, that's what I'm naming it, by putting us into light trances, well, actually heavy trances. I happen to be able to keep it light, under the guise of showing us ways to be better intuitives. I had about 3 sessions with him before he psychically put his hand on my knee and asked a question that had not been cleared with me when he thought I was in a trance and would not remember it. The question was, when is the next, no, not when, what is the next big catastrophe that is going to hit us as a human species? Again, this was back in 2004, and we had just had the first tsunami in Indonesia. I saw things I did not want to see, pushed his psychic hand away, came out of my light trance and said, wait a minute, you didn't clear that with me. Get the fuck out of my head. Unfortunately, I had by that time been infected with his fear, false evidence appearing real. And I didn't really understand the images I saw in that moment of light trance. There was nuclear disaster. I was surprised because it centered in the Mediterranean, but it certainly didn't start in the place I would have imagined it would start, which was the Middle East. It was coming out of Italy. And it was bad enough that Europe was devastated. Italy, being a part of Europe, was devastated. And in addition to that, the Mediterranean was unable to accommodate any kind of life. As a heroic doctor who at the time, in 2004 and 5, had a tendency to want to rush into burning buildings as a firefighter and help everybody out, I decided that was not what my healing was about, and I would rather not be here. Easter weekend of 2005, the fear became so big, although dates and times and details weren't clear, that I said, I got to get out of here. And Friday to Saturday, cleaned up all of my medical pieces, put myself in a hotel room with alcohol and barbiturates, and intended to die. Spirit had other plans for me. For 36 hours, I was out of my body in an altered state. I don't want to talk about that in detail right now, but suffice to say that they told me, sweetheart, we know how tired you are, and we know that you would like out. You've got a little rest now. You're going back for the duration. Well, it's 15 years later, and we are here again. I am clear that the disaster, the catastrophe I saw back then in that time stream was a possible disaster, that those people back then, the week that the Pope was buried and that the funeral was 2 million people in the Vatican Square, there was a nuclear terrorist disaster where somebody successfully detonated a quote-unquote small nuclear bomb, and a couple of the nuclear reactors that are also in Italy melted down, and that's why the Mediterranean was such a fucking mess. Fast forward to now. In that other time stream, those people, that world woke up to the damage it was doing and became heavily influenced by China and India and South America, and did not take the direction of some of the dictators that we have now, Bolsonaro, Trump, and were able to clean up their CO2. In this reality, we are hitting the same problems, but now I have the emotional chops to stay here for the duration. So this is not a vacation. It is a bit of a time out by Mama Gaia in our room with the most gentle bio-apocalypse that she was able to produce for us. We AmeeiKKKans are pretty fucked because we have a dictator in charge who doesn't know his ass from a hole in the wall, but the rest of the world is promised survival in ways that we weren't when the Amazon was on fire and Australia was on fire. So that's the good news.